Hello, and welcome to Business Your Mind. We have a controversial topic that I'm interested in today, so it's about war. Since a dawn of time, not just in our civilization, war has always been lingering outside this planet, just like a parasite with sharks. Not only humans, animals have been fighting with each other since birth, no matter across species or between their own. When a disagreement occurs, the easiest or most primitive way to resolve it has always been to overpower the enemy. But when humankind came around, this planet found a better way to settle a discord via negotiation. It seemed to be a lot more sensible way because there was no need of physical altercation that led to bloodshed and death. Nobody wants that, I suppose. Yet 300,000 years later, since first Homo sapien believed to appear on Earth, we are still fighting for territory like the far end, fighting unconsciously with each other for a nest. Shouldn't we have been far more evolved than that already? Why are we still unconsciously brawling? I'll try my best to explain my view on war, not just on a global scale, but a smaller and more relatable personal level. A disclaimer here, I was not graduate in political science or international affairs, so if any technical jargon or detail I got wrong, please give me in advance. Okay then, let's get started. As mentioned, physical brawl is the most primitive way of solving any disagreement. If you have a pet, it's not hard to visualize it. Animals are instinctively territorial, and if we invaded, things would get heated quickly. My first question is, why, as claimed to be civilized as we are now, still we keep fighting, hurting, and killing each other primitively? Is it because we fight for survival or our own basic needs like food or shelter? Consider this. We have developed a state-of-the-art technology that could land humans on other planets, be working on an orbiting space station around the world, and even send an unmanned spacecraft to explore farther planets as far away as Neptune. And if you want a technological breakthrough sort of closer to your home, is food science. When strolling along an aisle in a supermarket, we are bombarded with numerous brands of huge loaf of bread in a plastic bag. If we rewind back in time, we did not have this industrial-produced bread before World War II. What we consider as an artisan bread, that we sort of wipe out rule 4 right now, was the only primary source of carbohydrate back then. You probably think that should have been a brilliant time, since industrial bread is terrible, it tastes like a stack of tissue paper, but think about production and distribution. Artisan bakery could never match a scale of production against a factory, which in turn could lead to a significantly more affordable price during hard times, as well as for lower income population in general. Moreover, if land is limited, you need that. We also have developed a technology to build vertical accommodation, even a skyscraper that stands almost a kilometer tall. And in some island countries, land mass was magically created by dumping sand along the coastline. So, these examples of technological advancements should satisfy the needs of humans, and war should never come up again, if humans were logical nonetheless. There were too many reasons that people started fighting with each other, so it's too very hard to generalize. In ancient time, when resources were scarce and difficult to find, fighting for those resources were common, but as discussed earlier, technology allows us to better distribute resources to reach even the poorest and the most remote area if we ever chose to do so, of course. So, in majority, the reason we are still fighting is not for survival or needs anymore. Instead, it is desire and lust for power. Don't get me wrong, I know there was a litany of conflict in history, that one side was invaded and was a victim of aggression. and there was no other way other than to defend themselves or to fight back. This is totally fine, nothing wrong with that. And this motive does not fall in the same category as the aggressor, as long as you do not turn into an aggressor yourself afterwards. The problem is, instead, the ones who are not satisfied with what they already possess, they want more. The desire to improve or to develop is not unethical. This urge has driven humankind to continuously evolve, as evidenced by innovations we touched on earlier. However, breakthroughs do not come by so frequently. They take an enormous time, efforts and investments, and there is literally no guarantee of success. So, what people tend to do when they desire to expand or acquire more resources? Yes, indeed, take them from the weaker. You cut corners. In school, if you are a stupid child but strong, what is the easiest way to earn cash? Definitely to find someone to pick on. Of course, international politics are far more complicated than what I described, but the fundamental is still the same. Russia invades Ukraine or China threatens to invade Taiwan. It's still fundamentally similar, and most modern conflicts for that matter. Details of each war vary, but it could be boiled down to one country wants more than it already has and doesn't want to go higher apart. Even the US that invaded Afghanistan or Iraq. You can argue that initially the decision of starting a war was to capture terrorists and to prevent further terrorism, but did the US stop at just prevention? That's the real question. I won't bother trying to answer this question for you. I suppose you all have your own opinion on that. But anyway, we have talked so much on global conflicts. Now let us scale down a bit. So, how does this idea relate to your routine? Actually, it does in many ways. First, the idea of improving your quality of life is practically identical to a country's desire to acquire more power and resources. Ask yourself that, do you want to be promoted, to be in a higher position in your company? Do you want to stand out? And better yet, do you want a raise? How identical? The point is that we and Putin desire more or less similar things on different scale. The essence is that you also have a choice, as well as Putin does. A higher path is literally to improve your work output, develop your skills to work more effectively and efficiently. Or, on the other hand, you can choose to be an ass, sabotaging works of your colleagues, brown-nosing your boss to climb up ladder. This sort of choice is not dictated by anyone else, only yourself, as well as Putin. You can argue that Ukraine or the EU forced his hands. No, not at all. Yes, there was pressure mounting from Ukraine potentially joining the EU, but eventually Putin could have made a decision to talk instead. Literally nobody forced him to declare war. And even worse, what's the result now, when Putin chose aggression? If he were to negotiate in the first place, Russia and the entire world would have ended up in a lot nicer place. The key takeaway is quite straightforward. No matter in what circumstance, do not exploit or take advantage of others even when you have a chance. Why? Easy. Because no one, literally no one, wants to be on the wrong end of the conflict. You are not always the strongest in any situation, so if you don't want to be in Ukraine's shoe, don't bleeding act like that pathetic plonker in Russia. Sounds bonkers, but it's not just the question of what you could personally gain or earn in any situation, but you have to think more about others as well. Do you think if all of a sudden the US decided to launch a full-scale invasion to Russia, would Mr. Putin be shot to bits? Even Hitler. Did he not want people around him to be nice to him, or to be loyal to him? So, if even the most evil people still want to be treated well, why didn't they do it to other people first? What a bust. In this sort of increasingly complicated world with so many duties in our lives, countless responsibilities to take care of, we increasingly think just of our own interests. Just to sort of survive in this daft planet is already knackered. There's no time to think of other people. Then let's think back of your workplace. Do you want your workplace to be full of positive colleagues as well as a kind and fair boss? Certainly you do. And if there was an old git or a foolish prat which never seemed to work at all, wouldn't you feel gutted to be sat next to them and working together with them? And even worse, if there has never been any repercussion for these blokes at all, they are still earning salary by just wasting oxygen in your office. I must say, if that was the case, then I would leave. Sure, if you have a luxury to do so. But if you don't, what can you do to improve this situation? And again, for that matter, you cannot run away from undesirable situation always. No, you can't do it every time. So, simply just start from yourself. You can try talking to your boss about their behaviors, but that's all. You can never command him to do anything afterwards. It's not within your control. But what you can control, however, is what you behave. As already mentioned, hard working, self-improvement, or being kind and helpful. I'm sure most people know these behaviors are preferable in any office, but somehow sort of refuse to perform accordingly. Why? Perhaps being too good will be seen as weak, or other people will exploit your generosity? No, they're not relevant at all. Hear me out. You can be both kind and not weak at the same time. You just do your best on your assignment and, if possible, also trying your best to help others, but that's it. If you feel taken advantage of or strained, just refuse it politely. And it is within your responsibility to do so too. It's for the sake of both of you, of course. Nevertheless, a more important point is to not expect anything nice back. You just do it because it is the right thing to do, not because of a return on investment. Since, again, you have zero control on that matter. Think about it. If someone helped you out, wouldn't you feel a lot better if he did it ingenuously? Wouldn't you feel more grateful? So, in a nutshell, anything you decide your workplace to look like or your colleagues to treat you, simply just do it first. Recognize or not, doesn't matter. Just do it because it is right. We as humans are bound to socialize in some form, with partner, colleagues, customers, etc. Even you are an introvert, socialization is still unavoidable. You don't need to be a sort of BFF with everyone, just basically don't be an ass in general. Or, at a larger scope, imagine a world without power hunger, warmongers, or backstabbing wanker. Wouldn't we be smiling? In perfect harmony and collaboration, we probably would have colonized Mars already, but it is what it is. No matter which scale you look, global or personal, good things start with you and you alone. It's none of your business to dictate what others decide to do. That's their business, of course. Remember, anything you want others to treat you, do that to others ingenuously. What you get in return is not your concern. You do it just because it is right, that's all. But I think it's a lot better in return, I'm quite sure. This is all on my perspective, which might seem sort of overly optimistic and possibly naive in a way. If you are in disagreement, that's totally fine. You can leave your argument in the comment below. Or if you like it or find it interesting, like and subscribe buttons are for your consideration. that's all for me today, and see you next time, hopefully. Cheers.